I think he's hugely influential and hugely relevant. I think that there are certain aspects of his stagecraft that, to our contemporary and very storytelling, sophisticated tastes, occasionally feel a bit clumsy, but they in no way get in the way of all the wonderful things about his work, in particularly his social realist work. And fundamentally, as a social realist, he's holding the mirror up to nature, but of course he's holding the mirror up to ordinary people, and to ordinary concerns. And one of his great qualities, and the thing that I love about him the most really, is this sense of ordinary tragedies. And I think that there are all kinds of dramaturgical structures and forms in Ibsen that are timeless and that are still part of the way we tell stories now. And Michael Mayer, the great Ibsen translator and biographer, said that in terms of modern drama, Ibsen is Rome. All roads lead from him and to him. I think he often is exploring the individual against society. So one individual who is holding on to the truth as in an enemy of the people. And what is so fascinating, of course, is that that person is ambiguous and that there are people on both sides of the political divide who get upset about what he's doing. I just can't see how that couldn't be more relevant in a world in which the truth seems to be a malleable thing, in which the truth seems to be annoy people, and in a world in which politicians literally do not have to tell the truth anymore and it doesn't matter. I think that Dr. Stockman's inconvenient truth and the antagonism that engenders in the play is a kind of dramaturgical structure which is timeless and which we will always attach ourselves to. Obviously, women are extremely important to Ibsen, and he is a feminist writer, and all of his characters have these extraordinary kind of needs and desires, and often sexual desires. So the sexuality of women like Hedda Gabler and Rebecca West is absolutely extraordinary and feels very, very contemporary. The other thing that I think he does brilliantly, and I think it's such an essential part of Ibsen that it feels almost prosaic to talk about it, but that is the way the past bears down on the present. And the way in which he does that, I think he has a reputation of doing that sometimes in quite a heavy-handed way. So if you look at a play like Ghosts, in some ways there isn't a lot of present action. But then if you break down the individual scenes, there's an extraordinary balance between the burden of the past and what is going on between the characters in the moment as a result of that burden. That balance is held in a very delicate and supremely clever way. So he's an example. There are scenes in that play which I think would be an example to any writer about how to bring in this notion of the sins of the father, how that impacts on who we are and how it impacts on our present relationships. I think there are examples in that play that all writers should look at. And I suppose there are that brings up all sorts of, perennial themes about damage to children, about sexual abuse, about all kinds of things which are just the sorts of questions we ask about our lives and about how we live and about how we tell our stories all the time. In some ways, if you look at a play like A Doll's House, you would think that in a kind of evolved society in which we would hope that on the whole we would have equality between men and women, or in a society in which actually a woman walking out on the husband is not something that would cause any kind of rupture at all. Nobody would think that was an extraordinarily transgressive act. It still has the power to make people think, because we're not that far away from recognizing from the time in which that was a really radical act. And also there are perennial questions about what it means to discover who you are and what your relationship is with society that will never go away.